So what was the first video game? Was it Space Invaders? No. Was it Pac-Man? Forget about it. Was it Donkey Kong? Nope, not that either. How about Pong? Pong. The first video game that truly mattered was Spacewar. Stay tuned to find out more. So we're going to award Spacewar the title of the first video game to influence the future. Spacewar was created in 1962 at MIT by Steve Russell and his team for the newly installed minicomputer called the DEC PDP-1. Now there were some video games prior to Spacewar, and I'll talk about those in another video. But Spacewar's founding impact is almost impossible to contest. So the software itself was open source, essentially by default, because at the time there was no way to copyright program code. And this was incredibly important because it meant that any skilled programmer could modify the code and change the play mechanics of the game. Since all the early players were programmers, the game was able to evolve with mods, much like a game like Minecraft does today. So this was initially a two-player game, with each player having a spaceship that orbited a star, and the star's gravity affected the ship's trajectory. But the programmers at this time did not have enough computing power for the star's gravity to affect the missiles. So they worked around that by calling them photon torpedoes that were unaffected by gravity. Now, the public first learned about this game 7 years after it was created, and this was in a 1969 CBS TV show called The 21st Century. And one newspaper review after the program aired wrote that the season premiere showed, quote, men pretending to conduct a space war by pushing buttons that controlled imaginary spacecraft zooming around the sun. This was the idea of the future, what the 21st century would be like. However, for the elite computer science programs in the nation at the time, that was MIT and Stanford, Spacewar had been at the center of their lives for 7 years. That was the Stanford University Artificial Intelligence Lab that also was fascinated by the game, and they customized it and played it endlessly. But at Stanford, they took their passion one step further than they did at MIT. Stuart Brand came up with a groundbreaking idea, the world's first video game tournament. At the time, Brand was working as a reporter at the Rolling Stone magazine, and he was writing an article about how computers in the future could inspire creativity and also change society for the better. The central way that Brand thought that computers of the future would do this was through video games. Now, Stanford had created a 5-player version of the game by modifying it, and Brand saw this as a perfect opportunity to organize a competition. So the researchers shut down the lab for the evening and invited students and faculty to come and watch the first intergalactic space war Olympics. Brand showed up at the event with Rolling Stone staff photographer Annie Leibovitz, and Brand's article appeared in the December 7, 1972 issue of Rolling Stone. Now, one of the participants was Bruce Baumgart, and he came to Stanford to pursue graduate work on computer vision. And quickly, though, he discovered he had an unusual skill for playing Space War, and his talent was so strong that he often played with his non-dominant hand to try to level the playing field with some of the other competitors. He also experimented with programming the buttons backwards, so to again try to give him a handicap for playing. This only served to improve his skill, and he learned to control 2 ships simultaneously with different hands. The only player that worried Baumgart in the competition was Dave Poole, who later went on to create the computer used for the animation sequences in the movie Tron. Baumgart won the competition to no one's surprise, and the first video game earnings in history was a 1-year subscription to Rolling Stone magazine. Now, Brand concluded his article with these very prescient words from his 1972 vantage point. He wrote, quote, "Yet, Spacewar, if anyone cared to notice, was a flawless crystal ball of things to come in computer science and computer use. It was intensely interactive in real time with the computer. It encouraged new programming by the user. It bonded human and machine through a responsive broadband interface of live graphics display. It served primarily as a communication device between humans. It was a game." End quote. Just 6 months after Brand's video game tournament at MIT, Nolan Bushnell installed the first Pong in a public establishment. And the rest is, well, video game history. If you like this content, please do give it a thumbs up, comment below, hit the subscribe button, and I hope to see you soon at Dr. 2084 Gaming.